So why don't Jennifer's gonna be joining us in one. Oh, she's our clerk, so we have to wait for her. But joining us this evening are the folks from Concord Park and from, I have to read all your cards again, Meridian Associates. And these are the lovely gentlemen that are redoing the signage in the entranceway to Concord Park. And so Marcia and I and Amy met from the WCAC, met with them as they took us on a tour of the new entranceway to what they're proposing for Concord Park and their signage to make it a more welcoming and visible entrance to their community. So maybe you all, how do you all want to do this?
Why don't we introduce ourselves briefly?
Sure.
And I'd like to make a few opening remarks, and then I'm going to hand it over to Mark.
Okay, great.
Excellent. So my name is Charles Gagnon. I'm the president and CEO of Volunteers of America, Massachusetts. As you may know, that we're the owner and operator of Concord Park. And Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Charles. My name is Matt Lane. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development at VOA Mass. And thank you so much for inviting us and for the opportunity to present.
Thanks, Matt. Mark?
Yeah, my name is Mark Beaudry, and I'm with Meridian Associates, a professional engineer here in the Commonwealth, and been actually involved in Concord Park from day one, which was a long time ago. So anyway, and thank you for your introduction, Kate. I haven't been called lovely in a long time, so I appreciate that.
We're all lovely here in West Concord.
Absolutely.
So, oh, that's fantastic, Mark. First of all, I just want to thank Kate and the West Concord Cultural District Committee for having us. I know you guys really care about community standards. We want to make sure that not only we're good neighbors, that we're active participants in the town, and I think we have been for the last 22 years. I want to thank both Marcia Rasmussen and Elizabeth Hughes for their leadership. Kate, you saw firsthand, we coordinated a multi-interdepartmental tour with I think like 13 people, and everyone was very constructive and supportive and gave us good feedback. So we want to be a good partner. I believe we've been a good neighbor. And these improvements that we're proposing for Concord Park, it's kind of like once in a lifetime. You get to really upgrade the look. And currently right now, many people may be aware that we've done a complete renovation and we're still ongoing in the old structure. We built a 3-story new addition to the growing demand, both for our assisted living community as well as memory care. So we've been in the process of a challenging construction period, but I've been so impressed with the building department, Board of Health, Fire and Police Department, of course, along with the planning department to help us through this. So I won't forget it. I think it's the last time I want to do a major construction project during a pandemic. So you can quote me on that. So I'd like to really just start off briefly mentioning that Volunteers of America, many of you may know about us. We're part of the National Volunteers of America. We're a faith-based, community-based nonprofit. Our mission really is to help the frailest people in the community. We do everything from helping veterans that are homeless, senior care, both behavioral health, mental health, and substance use disorder, as well as workforce development. So we're an organization that's mission-driven, and we're very proud to be a good partner with the town. I would like to expand our partnership. We do lots of different things in the community. We also want to know that Concord Park has been known for providing high-quality care and really creating a sense of community for our senior residents and their families. And I'm really proud of the high quality level of services and the feedback we get from the families. So we're here tonight is really to try to update the property, site improvements. We want to be a great looking neighbor. It's a complicated site with the MBTA, that intersection, the commuter station. And we're hoping to win your support and give us feedback on the improvements we want to make to really visually upgrade the experience as you come off ComAF, and you have to kind of go through this yellow brick road to get to Concord Park. And I think both Elizabeth and Marcia made some good comments about enhanced safety signage. We want to make sure that our residents are safe walking through that into West Concord. So we're all ears, and once again, I appreciate your listening and your support, and I'm going to hand over the show to Mark. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. I'm going to try to do a screen share here and pull up the drawing that we presented on our site walk. And what I can do, Kate, is forward this along to you after the meeting tonight. This is the one that I said we were working on, that you had received kind of a draft of it. So what we've done is updated this plan as a result of the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, and it hasn't changed dramatically, but definitely some important changes that I'd like to walk through with the overall group. And so let me actually back up and take a higher level. So the basically everyone knows where Concord Park is. I could find an overall plan if that would be helpful to show the Concord Park facility and whatnot in a larger context. But but presuming that everyone knows where it is, what we're looking to do now is to, in addition to the on-site improvements that Charles was talking about that are pretty extensive with the building addition, site improvements, et cetera, parking expansion and whatnot. What we also wanted to do is take advantage of this opportunity and do some off-site improvements as well that we think are overdue. And so basically what we'd like to talk about is signage improvements, landscape improvements.
Mark, may I interrupt for just a minute? And it would be, I think, helpful to provide some orientation, such as where is the Commonwealth Ave intersection? Where is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail? Where are the commuter parking spaces? Just to orient people to this linear path that you're highlighting.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Masha. All right. So Com Ave is over here. And when you come in the entrance driveway, there's the rail line is basically over here. And you come in the driveway, and then there's this left turn that goes down. Is this parking, Marcia, for the rail trail, or is this private property? I can't remember.
It is parking that is on the state land, and it is available for anyone to park there. It can't be limited to any particular entity.
Got it. All right, thank you. So here is the rail trail running right down here, the bike path. As you can see, Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. Okay. And as you are coming into the driveway, you get to a decision point where you can either, when you go by the entrance to the rail trail, you have a decision to make, and it's either bear left to go down the driveway to Concord Park over here, or you could go straight to go into the commuter rail parking lot with, again, the station, the rail line is right over here. And then as you're going, you have another, there's a couple places where you can turn and go into the parking as well. And right in here is an important place where 66 Com Ave's on the left-hand side here. And then you've got an important crossing right here with this parking over here, all in here, and this parking all in here. And this is turns out to be a pretty busy intersection just before you get to the property line for Concord Park. And right now that is, we had it being stop controlled for people coming along the entrance driveway here, but not for this cross movement. So that was suggested that we add some signage in there and make that a four-way stop, which we've done on this revised plan. So basically, what we'd like to do is create a corridor that has more visual, continuity. And it's right now you can see some white fencing in various places. You can see some landscaping that is not in great condition. But what we'd like to do is add to improve the experience, the entrance experience, and at the same time, provide more visual continuity to help guide people through the parking lot, which, can be a little confusing, definitely for first-time visitors to Concord Park and older folk, whatever. It's it's pretty easy to get lost in the parking lot, and your inclination is to go straight here as opposed to bearing to the left. So what we'd like to do is add some of those elements that you start picking up in places with some white fencing more down towards this end. What we'd like to do is add more of that fencing elements along the basically along the entrance drive. So we'd see when you come into, we want to better define the entrance movements and exiting movements to a right turn, left turn lane, entrance lane, and then do some improvements right here, this island area right here that I'll talk to in a minute. But yeah, actually, why don't we start there? So right now, if you zoom in, you can see that the Concord Park sign is tucked way back, and it's in the shade, it's under trees that are somewhat overgrown. And importantly, it's the sign is actually green, which is not Volunteers of America, Massachusetts standard colors, which are red, white, and blue. And so what we are looking to do is move that sign forward out of the shadows, and change the colors to red, white, and blue. And Matt, do you have that sign plan that maybe you could I can give up the screen at one point and you could go over the sign details, but
yeah, I can have that ready, Mark.
Excellent. So we'll go back and look at the signs in detail. So what we'd like to do is move that sign forward. However, work closely with Public Works and whatnot to make sure that we don't have any sight line obstructions. And we talked about that when we met recently on site, and the Kate was there, and Amy and whatnot, Marcia. And I think we're pretty confident that we have a good spot that it can be located. And Marcia, I'll probably follow up with you later. I don't remember why you wanted us to move it, further away from the entrance drive, but we can talk about that offline maybe. But one thing that is important to note, that when you'll see this when Matt calls up the sign plan, we were proposing a sign that not only was red, white, and blue, that had a monument base on it, like a masonry base, and we've done away with that masonry base at the town's request to better improve sight lines and also to have a breakaway post situation. So now what we'd like to do also at that island is to do some landscape improvements. And we'll be working with, Concord Public Works as far as that goes. I know Marcia has some ideas. We'd love to hear the, any ideas that the group has tonight. But pretty much to get rid of the high bushes that are kind of growing a little wild out there and go to more of a low ground cover type scenario, prune back the trees that are there and whatnot. If not, switch them out, and we'll work closely with Public Works and their arborist to do that. So while I'm thinking of this, there has been some discussion about, the West Concord Village organizations wanting to do some signage and all that stuff. And there was some talk about, possibly doing something together. And I think what we decided when we were on site recently was that it might be better for you folks in the town to do some signage on the other side of the railroad line where the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail comes across, and maybe over in this area. So one thing we do need to do in this area is add an MBTA sign. And so there's going to be a lot going on in there, and obviously we don't want a sea of sign, a farm of signs that kind of gets very distracting, and before you know it, you don't see really any of them. So in particular, so we want to be a little careful with that. But as we work in we'll have a striped crosswalk with raised panels and whatnot. We're working with Public Works on that. As we go into the driveway, what we'd like to do is have our first accent fence, you know, a white fence along this property line right here, that, and also add some landscape material in that area to, you know, potentially to really spruce up that and have that be that first clue when you're coming in that, you know, that catches your eye. And then what we're going to do as we follow along here is there's an existing white fence in here, but there hasn't ever been really anything on the opposite side to catch your eye as you're coming down to guide you around the corner. There was an old wooden fence in this area that is now gone. Actually, it's still shown here, but that actually is no longer there. And what we'd like to do is have a white fence along this area where this red dashed line is, and then have some low plant material, you know, native material, you know, some seasonal variety potentially in that area, and to start guiding you around the corner. And what we were going to do is stop that before the light poles, and also stop it short of the you know, about halfway down the island that goes alongside the rail trail. And I think there's a 2-inch tree in this area that we talked about ending it at that location. But we also want to do some improvement to the plant material along the fence right in here. So anytime you see one of those caterpillar looking things, it's, you know, kind of adding some new plant material. Selectively pruning trees, you know, it's been a while since they've been pruned and branches hang down low, and you know, we want to work with Public Works to make some improvements there. There's also a couple trees in this area right here that opposite 66 that are getting pretty tired. So we're going to work again with Public Works to either remove those trees and replace them, or see if there's a way that we can salvage them. But there are, by the way, 5 light poles. You can see this black star symbol. Those are the Concord Park light poles that are in addition to the MBTA light poles, which are right here. So those poles and fixtures are going to be improved with the site improvements to make sure that everything matches. They'll all be LED, kind of uniform with the you know, with the site. So again, it will be a visual cue as you're working down the driveway. So as we continue down here, obviously we're not going to put anything in front of 66 Com Ave, but we do have an existing white fence in this area with some plant material. We are going to improve the plant material and extend the fence about 20 or 30 feet further down the driveway, and kind of integrate the fence with the existing trees, or the trees to be replaced. Again, there's one of the Concord Park light poles there. And as we get to approaching the Concord Park driveway, you know, we wanted to again have a 4-way stop configuration here for safety, and then add a couple stone pillars at the very end to accent the fence elements on site, on the Concord Park site, to really have kind of a stately kind of entrance into the site. So, and if you're interested, I could show you a plan of what is proposed at the main entrance here, where there's a new canopy proposed, some landscape improvements there and whatnot. It's really going to be quite a different experience than what is there existing. So that is a general overview of what we're looking at. We can talk about fence materials. That in some places we wanted to have an open post and rail fence for, again, you know, to be able to, you know, for sightline continuities between, but some of these other fencing is more of that I recall, more of a slat type fence. But so we can talk about fencing options and things like that. So instead of matching the existing fence all the way around, there's some benefit to doing post and rail, so you could see, some, through the fencing to the various uses going on around the site. Actually, real quick, working again with Public Works, we're adding a crosswalk right here. That's the one for the bike, for the rail trail. We're going to have a yield sign here with a couple yield signs. Road crossing, crosswalk signs and things like that. Yield crosswalk warning sign here. And this location of the yield bar has been carefully selected with, with Public Works. So basically somebody coming out of Concord Park will yield to the traffic coming out of the commuter rail parking lot, but get it far enough along that they'll be able to get that sight line back into the site. Now, one thing that I just thought of about the signage, all the signs will be externally top lit, and in accordance with all of the Concord sign requirements. The ground mounted enormous light fixtures are a thing of the past. So this sign right here is important to point out. At the split, as we call it, we'd go straight to go into the commuter rail parking lot, or bear left to go to Concord Park. We were proposing a new sign at this location, and it's at our site meeting, there was some talk about separating that sign into two different signs, one for Concord Park and one for the various parking lot uses. And that will also be lit where it's currently not. And that I think will be a real improvement to, sorry about that, to the, help for wayfinding for people to get down to Concord Park. And they'll be, again, red, white, and blue. And when they get into the site at the island, at the roundabout on site, there'll be a new sign there that'll be consistent with the off-site signs. So Matt, if you want to maybe pull up that sign detail, unless there's questions on this particularly.
Yeah, Mark, Kate, what would you prefer? Do you want to pause for a moment and have folks on the call provide feedback or comments and then move into the signage? I want to be mindful of your time.
Why don't we move right on to the signage, and then we can address everything all at once if people have anything else.
That sounds great. Matt, do you want to bring up the sign?
Sure. Mark, do you need to unshare first? Great.
And Mark, if you want to just kind of a high-level summary to discuss the design of the sign, et cetera, then we can open it up for discussion.
Sure. What we had talked about with the first sign plan that we looked at our site meeting a couple weeks ago was a similar Concord Park type sign, but it had a masonry base to it, and that was a concern about the site blocking sight lines, as well as a safety concern where it wasn't breakaway. So in response to that, we went back to the sign company, and they've come up with this design that would have a couple different approaches, a decorative approach or a granite post. And the consensus on our team that we saw these today was that most people like the more decorative post. And but we're flexible, and we're thinking maybe doing one thing out at Concord Commonwealth Ave, and maybe doing something at the halfway point or whatever. But this now is the current thinking, option one, that would be done for the out at Concord, Com Ave. So it'd be roughly 79 inches end to end. I think the sign itself was about 60-ish, if I remember, 55-ish and it's about 48 inches tall. But what's nice is that there's a couple feet on the bottom that will be open for sightline, and clearly these posts would be breakaway. Even if it's granite, they would be breakaway. So as you probably know, granite tends to be kind of brittle when you, especially when it's concreted into the ground. People, people like to use them as bollards and whatnot, and they get hit all the time and get snapped right off. So anyways, but we're leaning towards the option one.
Thanks, Mark. That was helpful. Kate, it's up to you how you want to entertain feedback and questions or comments.
Why don't we open it up to the committee and see if they have anything that they'd like to add to it. Their goal is to make it a more welcoming entranceway for their families, and to make it easy for them to find their way there, and as they had said, unveiling then their facility for their people. So does anyone have any comments that they'd like to share?
I'd be happy to jump in if nobody minds. So first off, just as a commuter who spent a lot of time coming in and out of that space, I think that a lot of the things you guys are talking about will definitely help the traffic flow and confusion, because even as a commuter, I find it confusing, and I've been going there for a long time. But I do have a couple questions. One of the things you were talking about is like the fence. So the white fence that is, I've just been looking at Google while you guys are, so I'm like looking at the space while you're talking about it, and there's a white fence that is nice looking, and having that with split rail, if that's what you're talking about, seems a little incongruous. I don't know how those two things go together. So personally, I would want to see something that was a little bit more like put together, and I think it would bring your brand out. At the same time, I think a little bit better to have something that's more consistent, rather than kind of, I don't know, making it different. So just, I'm curious about that. And then the other thing, when you were talking about the second sign, the one that's like where the split is going, like, is that something where there would be, it's kind of directional, so it's more of kind of a sign, one sign's pointing down the road toward your entrance and the other sign's pointing into the parking area, so just so people understand like where they're going?
Yeah, if I recall, an earlier plan that we had at the meeting a couple weeks ago did have a directional arrow on it that would point to the left for Concord Park. Yep, absolutely.
What about your comments, Mark, about Ed's fencing discussion?
I agree. I totally agree. And but the with VOA being a nonprofit and everything, we're trying to be sensitive to cost. I know there was been in early discussions with the town that we've been talking about this for over a year. It's there was some desire to have more of an open post and rail type effect for through visibility. But instead of replacing all the fencing that was out there already, we were the new fence would be post and rail. But I totally understand your point.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I can. The visibility, I guess, makes sense too. Okay.
Yep.
I have one comment.
Hey, Nan.
Yeah, I mean, I think, thank you for your caring here. It's so important what you're doing. I think one thing we can help you with, just so you know, our identity as a cultural district is to really support the craftsmanship, handmade things, decorative arts in West Concord. I'm sitting in a mill right now where, for 50 years, people made furniture by hand. And so in a way, any signage you do that encourages the idea that this is a place where decorative art and design count, rather than it's a place that's just kind of a random highway sign, that would be better. So we want the look and feel of West Concord Junction to be one where the arts matter. So in a way, if you could always have that in your thinking where hand craftsmanship matter, so your choices are to make signs that look like they're on a highway or anywhere, or signs that look like they're in a special place, which has a history for over a century of making things by hand with real care. So if you could use that, as a judgment thing, and I think you're finding that, I think it'd be better for us. Then our identity isn't fractured. Everywhere you go, you feel a sense of caring identity, craftsmanship. You see what I'm saying, Mark? You get it? I think you get it.
So do you, that said, Ann, do you have a preference of option one versus option two?
Yeah, I think option one definitely had the feeling of it, something, oh, I could see this was crafted. There was a
Okay.
care in this. It
Good,
doesn't
good.
look random. I'm not entering the town,
Yes.
I'm entering a caring place. So anything that, especially craftsmanship with wood, that's what this place has a history. Furniture making was made here for centuries and for a century, and it still is actually. There still are, so that kind of hand craftsmanship. So anything, I realize you're not going to be doing all hand craftsmanship, but things that suggest it, you have that choice. That's what our cultural district by the state is mandated to do. That unique sense of identity in place. So I think white posts that feel handcrafted, you get it. You already get it. And so
Yeah, that sounds
we
great.
want that look. And then we're doing what the cultural commission in Mass wants us to do.
I appreciate those comments, Ann, and yeah, I too want to make sure that we're being culturally sensitive to the built environment, right? The aesthetics, the color. Hopefully the sign will be a complement to the overall theme as opposed to a sign in front of a strip mall. I have nothing against strip malls, but you know what the signage goes.
But you get what I'm saying. We don't want the strip mall look.
We need to nod to the historic charm and history of West Concord.
Right.
So Mark and Matt, let's remember to kind of think about that. And even though I tell people we have a rich mission, we're a nonprofit, but I really want to get this site improvements right. And I want you guys as community leaders to be proud of what we've done and incorporate your comments. And it's going to be a drastic experience for new families bringing their loved ones up. And almost with the visual cues that Mark talked about, the rotating white fence, it almost be like the yellow brick road. They'll get to Concord Park. We're changing the entire, entrance, and we want the experience to be positive, and we want to serve local people that want to stay in Concord and West Concord.
Yeah, it'll be much more tying it back into the community rather than it being hidden off back there. It will bring it closer into West Concord just by that new driveway, I think.
I'm hoping and praying, Kate, okay?
Yeah, and maybe we can get the MBTA to do the same thing too, right?
That's Marcia's job. She's the magic one there, right, Marcia?
Yeah. Well, does anyone else have any other comments tonight? Well, Marcia.
Just a quick thought. I will research some of the landscaping that was done by the Green Thumbs and the Garden Club at the intersection of Main Street and near Commonwealth Ave for the Bruce Freeman, and get that plant list. And we might be able to use similar materials at the entrance because those are low growing. There were some really nice, a nice palette, and that would repeat the textures and the colors that are being used at that intersection, and maybe begin to tie the entrance to Commonwealth Ave to this point as well. And I'd love to hear some thoughts from the committee on whether that would be a good idea or not.
I think it would be. I think it adds some continuity, and it would help. It would keep it pulled all together rather than bringing in something completely different to it.
Then, Mark, I'll get that to you later this week.
That'd be great. And Marcia, do you know if that's the native plant material or what?
Some of it was, not all of it was. So I'll try to separate them out for you.
Okay, great.
And right, we want to emphasize, Marcia, durability and low maintenance.
Yes, indeed.
I would imagine that they were emphasizing that too when they put those in, right? Because those are pretty
Well, they maintain those areas. So, and that we did provide water in those locations. So I think we'll have to curate the list to make sure that we find things that are very, very durable.
Again,
And, you know, if you have other thoughts about, you know, post meeting, if you could share those comments with Kate and she can get those back to us, that would be great. Tomorrow night, we're going to be presenting in front of the West Concord Advisory Committee. So we're on a listening tour. And, you know, I appreciate people being respectful as a public charity, but also one of the reasons why I want to make sure that we can get a visual impact and upgrade. As you know, the assisted living market in Greater Concord, et cetera, is very competitive. And obviously we want to continue Concord Park being one of the best providers in the region. There's a lot of stiff competition, but when people find out that we're a nonprofit and we actually treat our employees very differently, I think people are really impressed by the sense of community and creating a real home for their mother or father or aunt, uncle. So I just want to make sure we can continue to do the best in class, even as a nonprofit, and be mindful that we're taking care of people's loved ones.
great. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Good luck tomorrow
Thank you.
night.
Good.
Thanks so
Thank you for
much.
having us.
It's
Thank you,
nice.
everyone. Appreciate your time and comments. Thanks, Marcia.
All right, talk to you soon, Mark. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, Mark.
Is that it? They're all done? So Susan, you have them then tomorrow night. Great. All righty. Earlier this evening, Jennifer sent us the minutes for May 4th. Did folks have a chance to look at them?
Sorry for the delay, everyone. I missed that in Kate's email. It's been a crazy week. They were very brief.
Yeah. If you don't feel, I read them, but if you don't feel that we can approve them tonight, we can hold off until next month and do it. Why don't we just hold off and do it next month, just so that we do it properly? Okay. Great. Next, we have Ed is going to present our logo iterations for the great West Concord branding.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So I will, you guys can hear me. All right. Good. You guys see this okay? I can make this presentation mode. So yeah, of course. Always does that. Play. All right. Do you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. So as I get into this, I only have a couple of versions of the logo, and before I get into them, what I'd love for everybody to do is I'm really looking for your feedback because last time one of the things that was talked about, and Margot actually presented an image of a kind of logo idea that someone else in the community had created that used the Union Station, and it was almost like it was a very realistic kind of rendition of the building, using their colors and everything else. What I'm trying to do is think about this as something that's a little bit, it represents that space, but it's not necessarily exact, and it's also focused a little bit more on the idea of the junction and on the idea of the words that we want to bring across in a sign, and kind of bring that out. I've started to play a little bit with color in this, but usually when, at least in my world, when we do logo development, usually we do black and white first and make sure that there's a kind of comfort level of the actual logo elements. So anyway, just wanted to let you guys know that. And then one other thing is, what I'd like to do is after I show you this, I'll iterate on this more, and I will actually send back some additional kind of finesse this week. So since we can't do that as a group, I'll send them individually to people and just ask for individual feedback, but I think that'll help us get to like a final place that we can agree on next time around. And then I think that'll help us also get to our deadlines on other things that need to happen for September. So just as a reminder, this was the, again, logo that had been done in a prior year, or at least logo idea. And so, you know, again, looking at the train station as a crossing point, part of the junction, how do we think about that? And we have this diamond that is, again, in the area. It's been memorialized as something that we also see as this crossing point. So the first, I gotta move you guys so I can see what I'm looking at. The first iteration here is one that I will say, I did this a little bit quicker than I wanted to, but the idea here is to show this building. It's a simple rendition of the building. I would want to spend a little bit more time with this, but it gives you kind of an idea. Maybe the size and shape of it could be played with a little bit, so it's not exactly the building, but this also gives you the sense of the train tracks kind of crossing over. You see in this logo idea that the train tracks have the what are they called? Rail,
Eyes.
the wooden parts,
Eyes.
ties. Thank you. The railroad ties that are again just representative here, but kind of give you that sense of the rails kind of going through there. And then here we have West Concord Junction Cultural District. And in this case, I was thinking the reason I tried to play with color here a little bit was to show how West Concord Junction is a thing in itself. And so we do want to, like, I feel like that could be called out in a way. And then Cultural District has its own, it could be black, it could be a different color, but something that could kind of, you know, pop out in a certain way. So this is a first idea. I'll go through, I have kind of two main ideas, but you'll see there's a couple of on the second one, so this iteration doesn't show the cultural district, and I'll show it with that as well. But this takes a little bit different approach. It's a different point of view of the building. It's a little bit more architecturally specific to the building, and again, like not everything that's on this would have to stay. The train tracks are a little bit more representative, but don't have all the crosses, which I think maybe simplifies this a little bit, but you still get that sense of a crossing. And then you have the words West Concord Junction. And then to show you how this could work in, you know, two ways. You could have we could use it without and with cultural district. So that there's, you know, again, there's ways to have a kind of flexible logo. And then a third just iteration, again, trying to see how color could work here. You can, you know, bring color in to distinguish that. And then one other note on this, I think as we get into color, you know, some of the lines of the building, again, I didn't want to go so far down a path and spend so much time on something that it was perfect, and knowing that, you know, it's likely to get feedback. So one of the things we can do is heavy up some of the lines, make some of these things a little bit stronger in the building or the rails and things like that, and then think about how color can go into those, but without making it really sticky. So I definitely want to make sure people, when they see this, they see the words West Concord Junction Cultural District, they get an idea of the space, they have a feel for it, but really our goal still is to bring across that idea of the cultural district. So if you guys want, like, I'll just go one step farther and then we can jump back to that. But one of the things I also from last time had talked about, we went through and looked at the buildings and the colors and things like that. And I spent a little bit more time and I finessed the colors. So these aren't exactly the colors that are on buildings, but they're some kind of range of a palette that I think will start to feel a little bit more kind of something that we could play with. So this was one group of like this green, a lighter blue, and a red. One of the interesting things about this red is I think it's pretty close, maybe slightly lighter than what Concord uses. I wouldn't want to make it our primary, like, first color, but it could be an accent, and it would tie us back to Concord, the main part of Concord. And I think they also use a green in some of their symbols that they use. And I know we have green in some of our signs and awnings and things like that. So if we were to use like a group of colors like this, it could help us, have that connection, but also have our own set of colors. And then we could certainly have a secondary palette. This is slightly different, has a slightly different blue to it. So it's slightly brighter, but darker blue in my mind. And then a different way to go. These are some of the colors that were in town. So like a darker blue, a little bit different green, and then maybe a yellow. So this takes us in a bit of a different direction. But again, gives us the ability to kind of play with some darker colors and then a lighter color that would give some accent. Blue and a yellow. I think the yellow could give like a nice contrast. Green is, could be the combination. It's a kind of a connection between the two because one goes green. But it's also, again, a nice together. And again, in each one of these cases, there's a set of secondary colors. And then the last one is, the last one is just a different iteration on what we did earlier. So that is that. I will go back to the logos because I just wanted to give you guys kind of a walkthrough of that. And then I am happy to kind of navigate wherever and open it up for discussion.
Great. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
This one that you have here looks more like a house.
Yeah.
The other one that you said was more architecturally where you can see the roof line better and those slanted, what are those called?
So like,
Yeah.
Like posts that hold the roof up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Corbels.
those.
What are they called?
I think they might be corbels, but I don't know.
That's not a word I'm familiar with. But.
Yeah. So I would lean towards that way. And one thing I was thinking about too was that I know you're going to darken things up and finish it up, but just thinking about when it gets smaller or when you have to reproduce it, that some of the skinny lines would really need to be fattened up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think all of this could be a little bit heavier, and then maybe a few of the details could kind of go away but I do agree with you. I felt like the other one was looking a little too much like a house. And I like the kind of the just slightly offset angle of this. Yeah.
I would argue that, if I could say something, I would argue this is more confusing to look at visually.
Okay.
So I study the psychology of perception, and you don't quite know where to look, and there are too many lines pointing at you. I think we have two simple ideas to focus on here. One is we're a junction, and so having the train lines is brilliant. We should do it. And I think focusing on the building that was the junction, which was one of the only ones in Massachusetts, which had two doors, because one went east-west, one went north-south. I mean, that's amazing what we have here. And that's why this building's here. That's why we're here. So in a way, focusing on the building is good. But I would argue, to back up with what Kate said, we need to simplify it. I think having the angles go in so many different directions is perceptually very confusing. You've got West Concord coming out you've got one angle this way, you've got sharp angles subliminally and instantly get your body into negative arousal. So I think that you need to simplify it more. I would argue face on, don't worry if it looks like a house or a face. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's what we're hardwired to see. In a way, I think this one's simpler, but it has maybe too many train lines.
Yeah.
I don't know. I disagree. I really like the angled offset one. And I also like the
Okay, well,
simplified.
I think the angled offset is kind
Yeah,
of,
everybody's psychology is different, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah, right, no, well.
I think that I like the absence of the railroad ties. I think this one is a little bit simpler, but still gets the idea across.
Mhm.
And I also like that the perspective from the front to back line going off to the distance. It just feels like an arrow, like we're pointing at something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, and just to the two doors thing, part of the reason I did this angle was that idea that the train went by two sides, and that it did have, I mean, I can't show the door without.
You're right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
But like, I think it does have a nice feel, and I totally hear what you're saying about there being a lot going on. And so one of the things I was thinking is that maybe there's a way to simplify it a little bit, and I think some of that also can be done with color, to kind of give your eye some different places to go. But I think we can keep working with that.
Yeah, well, I think the idea of focusing on the junction, focusing on the building, whatever you do there, that's good. Then people know what the junction is, because most people still don't. And so that's why we're unique and different. So that's really what we should focus on. So I think it's great that you're doing this. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate your feedback.
Then we
What-
make the roof just darker. Obviously, some of this, it'll be, some of the
Yeah,
building
it could,
will be more solid.
sure. Yeah. So the roof could be filled in. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's different ways that we can try it. So yeah, these are all really good points of feedback. So
Ed, I like the fonts. I like the way West Concord is the same, the way you've made them all the same size. So then Junction gets big, but you see West Concord Cultural District. I like that works. And I like this one better than the first one too. It's funny. I don't really, personally, I don't agree with the way, to me, when I see that that railroad tie, the railroad ties going straight to the back and ending in a point at the horizon, to me that looks like maybe like a Western landscape or something, where you can see so far that you can see it meet at the so that kind of doesn't actually look like West Concord to me, to have it go back that way.
I mean, it's a logo. It's not meant to look like West Concord. So
you know what, and you can discard that if you want.
But I think Margot made a good point, Ed, that maybe you can try it without it going to a sharp point.
So I will just point out to everybody that if you stood in this location and you went back 150 years, you would see no trees, and you would see in a pretty straight line for pretty far.
That's true. You're right. You're right.
Can you go back in your presentation to the photographs, the historic photographs that you had?
I don't think I have any from that particular. Sorry.
Oh, this is a long presentation. Sorry.
Place. I was just trying to find the.
Yeah, this is what.
So these are definitely not from that time period, but there's a painting that I saw or something where literally there's like nothing, like none of these houses are there. The train line went across this way and I went through like, or maybe this way, but it went across that bridge and there literally was nothing there. There were no trees. It was all fields and stuff like that. So this is pretty modern compared to like what it originally was like. Anyway, I think it's a logo. So that's kind of my thought is I don't know that if we add more things there or if I made the railway turn, I don't know that it's going to add. I can try it.
Just if the tracks don't meet in a point, the tracks
They just don't meet in the point. That's a good.
Yeah, they could be separate. So at the horizon line, they're not.
So I can end it early so it doesn't.
Yeah. Point. I think that'd be better if they don't meet in a point.
But I also just want to acknowledge that design by committee doesn't have, people don't. So Ed, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're really putting so much thought into this and care, and it's great. Thank you.
Well, that said, on design by committee, though, I think this is a much better way to go than what we had before.
Oh yeah.
This is much better. Don't you think, guys?
Yes, absolutely.
I agree.
This is so much better. So sometimes design by committee gets us in the right direction.
Oh, this is great. And I really honestly, like every single one of the bits of feedback that you've given is helpful. And I'm going to iterate on this and I'll try a couple of different ways to do it. And I can send you guys what I come up with. And then since we can't talk about it as a committee outside of this group, if each one of you is able to provide just individual feedback to me, and I can kind of figure it out that way and get to something that's closer to final, I think that would be a good way to go.
Can I just add one thing? As you know, this is my last time on this committee.
Oh,
I hope to stay working with you at WCAC, moving on. But Irene may be joining, and I think she's on the call right now.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. Okay.
And she is a trained graphic designer as well.
Oh, great.
So,
Irene.
so Irene, I want you to meet Ed. Ed, meet Irene.
Hi, Ed.
What do you think, Irene?
Well, I wasn't sure. I'm just jumping in, so I don't know where you guys are in the process. I don't want to tread on any toes. Are you still seeking multiple logo ideas, or have you already narrowed it down to this is the one? Like, I don't know where you are in the process.
I think so where we got last time was that we really liked the idea of the Union Station, or where the Concord Junction was, West Concord Junction was, and that there is this is the actual diamond that was one of two that used to be there where the two tracks went over. It's in a slightly different place than it originally was, but so what we wanted to be able to do is represent this kind of crossover. So what I'm doing here, like you can see two of the diamonds here, the two diamonds that did exist. And
so literally the junction.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's what I was trying to represent. And then the other thing that we talked about last time, and I think Anne brought it up again, is the fact that this building had these two different doors. So it actually had train lines on both sides, two sides of the building. So it was really unique. So that was where we got to. I created this since that last time we met. And so this is the first time most everybody on the call is seeing it. So that's kind of the background.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That because junction is in our name, we really wanted something that represented the junction rather than the direction we had been headed before, which was having the Harvey Wheeler clock tower, which doesn't say junction visually.
Right, you're not on the ground with the train tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we were discussing at the last 2 meetings ago that we were the junction, that, ding, we should have the trains in the depot be part of our identifier for our district.
Okay.
Yeah. Irene, a thing that if you are a trained graphic designer,
I am.
Maybe you and I could collaborate on is some of the color palettes. I've been working on basically those color palettes were based on going around and looking at the town and trying to bring out some of the kind of what is the palette that's already here,
Right.
and then having some license in that as well. But I'd be glad to share this and if you have thoughts on that. And what I was trying to get to was kind of if there was something like it could be 2 or 3 primary colors and then have a palette of other colors that we could use that could go toward, elements that could go on a website. It could be those secondary palette items could be other graphic elements that we use as icons or other things like that. So that's what I was trying to get to. And so anyway, that's the process I've been going through.
All right. Yeah, I'd be happy to help.
Cool.
Great.
Okay.
And then where we are in the process, again, we had talked about that our goal was to, this is one element of our branding project. The other, the pieces, the collateral materials that we're trying to produce as the map and brochure of the district,
Yep.
along with the kiosk with the big sign for
Right. So
Park off of,
what's, I actually don't, I guess I don't know about the kiosk. And I don't know if that's like a totally separate conversation, but I've known about signs, and I've also known about the, obviously the map project that we needed to have kind of this branding for. So anyway, I definitely want to like get this all wrapped up. So, because I know originally when I came on, the goal was to get the map project started, and then we realized we didn't have all the elements that we needed. So anyway, I feel like in June we absolutely can finish this part, and I feel like by our next meeting, hopefully by working kind of offline, we can come back and have something that we can all like give the thumbs up to.
Mhm.
Okay.
It was my understanding that the kiosk, Marcia, is this it? It's the kiosk with then the big map of the district on it, and all the wayfinding on it, and then a place to put brochures and things.
Right, but that wasn't part of this project. It's an element for the future.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yes,
All right. Oh, all right. So the charge for this piece is just the logo and the wayfind, which the logo
Yes.
is part of our map
Correct.
brochure. Got it.
The money that we're getting from Mass Cultural Council
Mhm.
was for the map and for printing and to buy like holders for various locations in stores so that they can pick it up and take it with them, kind of thing, and help orient. The goal was down the road to create a kiosk where people getting off the train can begin to orient in West Concord and find what they're looking for. But that's a more expensive and a bigger project.
Okay.
Side question, but related. Is there a time frame that money has to be used by the Mass Cultural?
Well, if we can get DBG under contract by the end of this month, that would be the ideal.
Yeah, so we could do that, but then I think we just need to let them know that this stuff's coming. But I think we could get them maybe started without the logo initially, and then they could keep going.
The problem has been that Mass Cultural Council didn't have the correct address didn't have the correct name of the town manager or the contact person or an address. So I just finalized the contract, I think last week, and sent it in. And so we don't yet have the money. But if we can get the contract with DBG, again, by the end of we just have the contract. They don't have to be finished. We just have to have that money encumbered. We'll be fine.
Okay, great.
I spoke to her today about something else.
So did I.
Yeah, my own project.
She loves you, by the way. She says you're great to work with.
Oh, good. And she didn't think it would be a problem given our time frame to make sure that we had this all done.
Okay.
And have something for the fall, because it's my hope that, and I think everybody else's, is that we can have this by the time that maybe the Porch Fest rolls around, or if we get to have it in September. So, which I think we can talk about now. Jennifer?
Great. Anything else anyone wants to add about the design?
Thank you, Ed.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Ed, I've just sent you my feedback on the logo.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Porch Fest. Yeah, I have been getting so much people stopping me on the street. Is there going to be a Porch Fest this year? Is there going to be a Porch Fest this year? People are really hungry for this, and I think it's the perfect way to back into public life because it's outdoors. It's still relatively safe and well, very safe. Outside has always been relatively safe. Let's do it. The first step, I think, is to figure out a date. I went through and I checked all the Porch Fests in Eastern Massachusetts. And many of them were either postponed or not yet scheduled. There are 3 in September, Milton, Hull, and Quincy. And I think since none of those are geographically nearby and that this is primarily a local festival, it's okay for us to use any of to program against any of those dates. On the other hand, I think it is important that we fit in our scheduling with other events going on in town. So I also talked to Beth at the tourism office and got some other dates. So the first weekend in September through this day,
You're kind of cutting out on us there, Jen.
going to work for me. Sorry. Let me see if it's this.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Is that any better? I'm using my computer now instead of the headphones. I think they're old headphones. So the first weekend in September is Labor Day weekend. I'm taking my firstborn to college. So
Uh-oh. It went away.
what?
Uh-oh. Hey,
I
Jen,
went
yeah,
Yes.
would it work to get to just not do the video? Does that,
I'm not doing a video.
I mean, to not do the,
Oh, if I turned off my video,
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
could try that. I was just gonna grab the Ethernet cable and just plug directly into the Wi-Fi. So that I'm not at the whim of Wi-Fi. Hold on one sec. Standing right next to the router, so I'm not really sure why this is an issue. Okay, I am hardwired to my internet. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. September 4th to 6th is Labor Day weekend. September 11th is Concord Conservatory Open House and Concord Ag Day, which is in Concord Center. That's where all the farm stands and everything come and do, kind of an open air farmer's market. There's a bike event on September 18th. That's all I have. I don't know what the event is, but it strikes me that people on bikes might want to hear some music, so that might not be problematic. I talked
That
to,
event. Is
sorry?
that- Who's doing that event? Is that Wade?
That's all I have is there's a bike event on the 18th.
Okay.
That's all I got from Beth. I apologize. And then I talked to Hillary Taylor at the Rotary Club. They're not doing their Oktoberfest. So those are the only September town events, which I think pretty much makes any of those days possible. I mean, Kate, it would be up to you, but programming with your open house might actually bring a lot of music lovers to CCM and a lot of CCM families to Porch Fest. So I don't know if that's a non-starter for you.
I was thinking it becomes a parking issue.
Okay.
For us.
Okay.
But had you thought about September 25th?
The 25th is fine.
That's, as Beth probably told you, is the day that they've put out for the town, what is it, sidewalk, something or other. And so I had told her, you probably told her this today, we were considering potentially that date, but then it would be something maybe we could collaborate.
Right. Yeah, I don't think the concurrence of events is actually a problem in a lot of these instances,
No.
especially for drop-in type events.
Yeah.
That gets more people coming to both events, I think, and a little cross-pollination. So the 25th is certainly has nothing else going on it, but I wouldn't want to rule out the 18th. Does anyone else have any feedback?
The only thing other thing I would add that I found is that the little bit further you get into September, the easier it is to get people to help out.
I think that's true.
And they're becoming more willing to stick around rather than still trying to retreat away for the summer.
Yeah, the only each week colder that it gets, we run into the possibility of there being, but I don't think September 25th is going to be an outdoor.
Last time it was beautiful.
Yeah, I know, it really was. But I think that was like on the 12th, wasn't it? Or no, it was on that same weekend. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm fine with September 25th. How does everybody else feel about that date?
Good time of year.
Sounds good.
Yes. All right. Then let's declare it.
Yay.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I've put together a sort of task list of everything that needs to get done. Jen Hurley Wales, who couldn't be here tonight, has volunteered to be my partner with this. And then as we kind of get organized and come up with a couple discrete volunteer projects, I'd love to talk to you guys about who might want to help with things. But if everyone could just be there at the event to help hand out maps and direct people and everything, that would be great. Honestly, a lot of the really difficult work was done the first time, in terms of like creating the sign up forms and figuring out how to make a map and all of that kind of thing. I think this is going to be a little bit more plug and play this year. So I'm a little less overwhelmed by the amount of tasks involved. And also I think I can do a better job of identifying discrete projects. For instance, write a press release and send it to these 5 places, you know, that kind of very straightforward tasks. But I think,
is that like from a promotion perspective? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you thinking that again we would have food at the Harvey?
Yeah, I would love to. That was a huge plus, I think. And a lot of where's my timeline? Yeah, and if anybody's interested, I'm happy to send around the debrief from the last one with things that went well and things that could be improved. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that would be really helpful. And also if you had, as you said, your task, what you're thinking, or other areas that you want people to head up. I know you still have to meet with Jennifer Hurley Wales to talk about that too, but maybe
yes. And we've got that on the books already. That is on Monday the 14th. So she and I will just tweak the timeline, identify some discrete tasks. The committee tasks were figuring out the date, which we've done. And also, just this is a good point to indicate that we should make that Sunday the rain date, because this is a fair weather event.
Yeah.
We had a discussion in the past about whether to include non-food or non-musical vendors. For instance, the League of Women Voters, or I keep getting calls from this place called Baby Safe Haven. They want to promote that you can bring your infant to a fire station if you decide not to parent, which I think is an admirable mission, but it does not strike me as something that really connects to Porch Fest or our cultural district.
Right.
We had decided in the past to stick with food and music only. And then the last obvious committee task would be to brainstorm which food vendors we'd want to include. Last year we had Reasons to Be Cheerful, which I think is a no-brainer. And my child now works there, so we have an in. And Concord Market, I think they did like pulled pork sandwiches and sodas and stuff, and that was great. But I think any other food vendors would be awesome. And then things that are not food but are music related. We had the high school radio station come and broadcast from Porch Fest, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, so if you guys have ideas of food vendors or music related organizations that could be in the Harvey Wheeler parking lot there for the sort of home base where people get the maps and dispatch, that would be great. I can just, since, do you guys want to just do the debrief real quick, just a quick summary?
Sure.
Or, okay, it's just very quick.
I was gonna present still Margot.
Oh, Margot still has to go. Okay, I thought I was last. The big thing is that we got to keep cars out of the parking lot. We need to be more explicit about where we're parking, maybe get some of the road barriers from the police station. And we need to set up some first aid option, which we hadn't done before, but we had a very Kathy. Oh God, whose last name is Kathy Monero, I think. Is that her last name? Anyway, she works at Concord Children's Center, and she hopped right into CCC and tended to a dog bite using their first aid kit. And we hadn't planned ahead for that. So that's something we need to do. And then also the scheduling of the bands, so that instead of having dead time band, the dead time for band A or for site A is a live time for site B, and then you can kind of flip flop between nearby sites by staggering the start times of the various musical acts.
Oh, I thought you had done that last year.
We did, but we could do it better.
How many locations are there typically?
I think last year we had 12. And the ones that were further out didn't get as much foot traffic. So I think we really want to stick to this immediate West Concord Junction neighborhood, Highland, Central, Riverside, Pleasant, basically from the Thoreau School to the Fowler Library, that whole area right there. And then that makes Harvey Wheeler the perfect home base where people can get a map, use a bathroom,
Okay.
etc.
So not like nothing's down at the ride out. That's too far.
Yeah,
I don't think people will walk that far. I think we need to keep it close together. And yeah, the towns that really do well with these more dispersed events have kind of subcommittees to run a mini Porch Fest in a neighborhood. And they don't have a centralized location, so they don't print maps. They just have people use their phones. We found for our population, at least, a lot of people really wanted the paper map. They couldn't see their phones in the bright sunlight, that kind of thing. So those are all in our sort of lessons learned.
that was ridiculous. I was making so many copies.
I know.
I kept going, I need more copies. Tell them to use their QR. No, they don't want to.
They don't want to, yeah. And then the other thing that we're going to do is my husband has recently become licensed to do drone photography. So we're going to get some pictures of the event from the sky to see how big it is. And that'll be really cool to see everything that's happening. Yeah, but so we have a blueprint. We have I think I'm a lot less stressed about it this time. And between Jen's help and all that we learned last time, I think we're going to be in really good shape. It's going to be another awesome event. I'm so excited.
I am too. So will you tell Beth that we picked this date?
I will.
Cool. So at least we'll have that covered off.
I just wanted to mention, I looked up the bike event, and it's a MS fundraising ride that is usually on Martha's Vineyard, but they've relocated it to start in Concord this year and be entirely on the mainland. So it has nothing to do with the vineyard, just this one year, but it starts at CCHS, and it'd be interesting to see what the route is, if any of it goes through West Concord, and maybe we can do a little bit of advertising for the following weekend's event somewhere along the route that the bikers will be taking, because if people like what they see in Concord, like, why not come back for something more relaxing and fun like Porch Fest?
That's a great idea.
There you go. Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
So when was your event, Margot? The 19th.
Oh, yeah. So wait, which part of it? You know, we did this, the event was, we had Spring into West Concord Junction, and that went from the 19th to the 22nd. But you want to do, we could jump right to the reveal of the farm mural, which was part of that period of time.
Yeah.
And that was, of course, the big deal for me and for our committee, Art Scramble 2, our local farms. We did it. We got it up on the side of Saltbox Kitchen, and we had really just a wonderful event.
Sorry. I didn't realize that was a video.
Do you want to?
Sorry, I'm gonna go back. I'm doing a crappy job sharing your
Can you show the video? Do you want to?
I can, but you were talking, and so I didn't want to. I was interrupting you.
Well, I guess I just now I feel like I've rushed ahead to introduce it. So go ahead and show. I mean, everybody knows what we're talking. Has everybody seen the mural at this point?
It looks so amazing, Margot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so great. We went to see it the other day.
Oh, good.
So here is the unveiling.
It's the most beautiful way possible. And tagging Christo's name, by the way.
Oh, we need to see the visuals. We can hear it, but we can't see it.
Oh, shit.
You might need to share your screen.
Yeah, I've done this like 5,000 times with this music school for recitals. You would think I would know how to do it by now. One more time. Movie.
Showing us the most beautiful way possible.
Yeah, we're still not seeing it, unfortunately.
By the way, in case you hadn't.
It paused for some reason.
All we see is your
We're seeing your screen and not the video.
screen
I
saying.
shared it too.
Maybe I should try. I thought it would be easier for you.
Right, and you were terrific and sent it to me, and I was like, I got this, no problem.
Because I mean, I have not done a great job. Do you want me to share?
Yeah, sure.
Am I sharing? Oh, well, I have to say that I'll share. Wow, none of us doing. I say share screen.
Then you have to press the little button on the bottom that says share sound.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Share sound? Ah! Share sound, where?
The
The
little,
bottom?
little thing, it's a little circle. You just set.
Excuse me.
Where is it at the bottom?
It's
When you start sharing.
Go out of
sharing, it might work.
sharing and do it again.
So I should go stop sharing,
Yeah.
and then I see share screen.
There's a little checkbox for share sound.
Got
Yeah,
it.
click that.
So then I say share screen. And now can you see?
Calling this the most beautiful way possible. And tagging Christo's name on it, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed.
Yay.
That was
was
So
fun.
great.
That was awesome. Post that.
And then
Hosted a really nice event.
there were, yeah. So I was hoping to have for you today, but they didn't get it done. Minuteman Network was there filming the whole thing, and they're going to do, they say, kind of a biggish documentary of the making of the farm mural. But meanwhile, they said they would send me some clips of it, but they're way too busy, so I don't have that to show you. But I can tell you that the speakers were terrific. Steve Verrill did a lovely job, and he was really funny and told some interesting history about farms. And G. Kiwanuka, who appears in the middle of the mural, was lovely, and he told people about Thomas Dugan, and there's an exhibit of his at the Concord Museum, and then Louise, our contact with the committee. He did a lovely job too. And I wish, I don't have any video of him. People have sent me a little of this and that, but I don't have his part. But it was a really nice wrap up from him. And I don't know, there may be, how many people do you think there were, Kate? Maybe 70 people?
I don't think there were that many.
Or maybe not. You know, it was too bad we were, you know, the idea was to have it at 1 PM so we wouldn't get too many people, right? And then we weren't supposed to try to get too many people, but
it was my staff walked by and they said, wow, you had there was a really good turnout for the thing you were at. So they thought it looked good.
That's what everybody says. I'm like, yeah, we should have had 1,000 at least, but
no, it looked robust.
But it was, yeah, it was a nice, it had a real good feel to it. But Kate was there, and so was Terry. Would you like to say anything?
Lovely event, Margot. Terrific.
Yeah. And one of the nice things that Louise said about our district was that he says he always uses us as an example for other cultural districts that say are coming on board who don't have paid staff to lead the organization, and what you can do, you know, who don't have someone whose sole job is to run the cultural district for the town. We have Marcia, who leads us mightily, but she's not dedicated to us. And he says that he uses us as an example to show what you can get done as a district without paid staff. Because we often say, look what this town's doing, look what that town's doing, like Framingham and Natick and other places, but they have dedicated people to do this. And so though we are small, we are mighty. So
rah.
congratulations on successfully shepherding that through, Margot, and getting it completed in the pandemic, and really bringing the community together through all of your kits and getting all of that done. It looks marvelous where it is.
And if I may, Margot, I took a picture of it, and I just have to put it up on the screen because it's like nice and vibrant here for you.
Yeah.
It really, the way it matches the side of that building.
Oh, I know that. I could not believe.
Wow.
You guys see that? I mean, it's really
incredible.
It's beautiful.
Wow. I love how all the different, you can really see all the different styles and the different things that people did.
Yeah.
And they really spend like half a day there just looking at all this.
That's so great. That's so great. And I mean, it captures something that I so wanted to do, which was to have, you know, all the individuals and yet one picture, right? We're all in it together. It's great.
Are we going to do one last thing? Are we going to do another one?
Yeah, well, so I would like to talk about that. Go ahead, Marcia.
Well, I was just thinking it would be great if we had pictures to put up on your webpage. You know, everything that we have is old. So I would love if people took pictures that day, could share things so we could do a little write up and
you're talking about the webpage, the cultural district webpage on the town. Right.
Yes.
Oh,
that's a good lead in to what I'd like to say about doing the next one.
Great.
So, you know, I mean, this was, you know, there were definitely days I was like, never again will I do that. But of course, you know, I said that when I gave birth too, and I did it. And so, but I do have a lot of thoughts about how to make it go more easily. And I've talked to Carlene, because, you know, I do want to say Carlene was the one who had the idea of, you know, we want to have five murals, you know, throughout the town, et cetera, et cetera. I give her credit for that. And I did towards the end of this, I did say, I have to do this again. And I partly got Billy Crosby to, I don't know if you've noticed, there's this little sign on Marshall Farm, as if, like strawberries or sale or something, but it says Art Scramble 2. And I did that when I decided, you know what, we're going to keep going somehow. So if I say Art Scramble 2, people will go, okay, well, where's Art Scramble 3? I mean, you can't stop at that. So, but I really lack a lot of the skills that Jennifer Montbach has. Jen, when you describe, your planning for Porch Fest, I'm so jealous of your ability to do project planning. So I definitely don't want to get started on the next one until I have my own personal Jen Montbach help. And I know that Jen isn't going to do it, so I got to find somebody else. And so anyway, Carlene and I have talked about creating a task force for the murals. And I think that's totally, I mean, it's a huge project. It's bigger than this committee wants to take on by itself. So that, and if there are people on this committee who would like to be on that task force, that would be great. There are so many wonderful people. I mean, I think we have some great people here, by the way. Wow. Pat ourselves in the back. So I don't know. I don't really need to say more than that because I would like to have a committee or a task force to talk to about the next murals. But what are people's thoughts? I mean, well, I could go on, but
I'm curious,
probably
are there topics that have been already chosen?
Well, that was the one. Yeah, that was what I would love to talk about, actually.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing rivers because, of course, we've got the Sudbury and the Azabet, and I mean, Neshoba Brook, can almost call it a river. So rivers and industry.
Mm-hmm.
The history of industry, which is kind of what I'd like to do next. I'm really, and
Yeah.
I have, industry, and I can't remember. I know there were one or two others that have been suggested. Does anybody remember?
Do you think for the next meeting that you could bring together what you would need for a task force?
Oh yeah, I got it all written down. I could even put it on the screen, but I won't do that now.
Yeah. Why don't we plan on that for the next meeting then?
Okay.
And we can get that going, or start populating your task force. Work on who we know to help do that.
Yeah, that would be great because I think, having this one just gone, there's sort of this interest in it that this would be a good time to get people sort of enthusiastic. And
because we have to talk about not only the people, but also the funding for it, the timeline, because I know funding for it was also, an issue along the way, besides the people and getting all of that done. So I would like to make sure that we have the budget for it, the people, and all the funding sources in place, and then embark on it and make sure that then the last piece of it is just the execution of it.
Right.
I know it stressed you out along the way, not having all of that in place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I really need that. I really need it. Yeah.
And so I can, help on this task force too, to help get this all in place.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
How much does something like this cost for one?
Well, that would be up to, that's what I need help with because it definitely, did not have enough money for this one, but we did it anyway.
I mean, is this like, because I know there's obviously a lot of paint that has to be bought and all the supplies, and then there's just hours and hours and hours of work, obviously, that you put into it. But then there's also the sign, like actually getting it put on the wall, I'm sure costs a fair amount.
Well, and Marcia has the numbers for that. I guess. The town.
Yeah, that you keep submitting invoices for without telling me.
I know. Well, Marcia, right. This this is a case in
I
point.
don't have the numbers right now. I
Yeah.
have to sit down and go back through and see, because
Yeah.
we dedicated certain Mass Cultural District funds for it, but then that was used up. And so I've had to dip into the planning budget. And fortunately, I had somebody go on leave of absence, so I have the resources, but it would be good. I need to document it all to say, this is what it costs to do this. And then, as Kate suggested, make sure we have the resources available rather than trying to.
Yeah, it would also, I'm just curious because I know producing this happened during the pandemic for the most part. So I don't know if that actually increased the cost, and also probably the amount of time that it took to get it done. But
Well, it did, because Margot ended up putting together kits that she could deliver to people's homes so that they could paint the tiles.
Although,
we
I mean,
have a
honestly,
bunch of them.
Yeah.
but honestly, that part didn't increase any of the costs because I didn't charge it for any of my time. And I mean, you know, we used the paint, Phillips paint. Yeah, I had a lot of volunteers. So that was an increase for me. I mean, I spent an absurd amount of time that I wasn't putting towards, actual income for the art room. So yeah, I definitely can't do that.
No. So let's put together a document. Mark can work with you on this for everything about, the costs and timelines and peat bodies needed and project theme, because it should get so that it's pretty relatively turnkey. Once we flush it out again this time, then the next iteration of it, if we can follow this blueprint, and then
absolutely
and do it that way. So maybe you and I can get together or talk about it before we're with Carlene or whatever, to have something for the next meeting.
Okay.
That
sounds good.
So I have on my our calendar, our next meeting is July 6th. Is that right? Tuesday the 6th. That's the first Tuesday of the month. People are going away.
Susan and I will have to do it from a different place, but we'll be here.
I know, just like skipping ahead, I'm away the August meeting. So someone else, if we meet, someone else will have to chair. I won't be in town for that.
I will also be away the first week of August.
I mean, we often take August off. Maybe we
can take
August
off.
We wouldn't need to do a late August meeting, I think, though, for Porch Fest. Maybe we could do a Porch Fest only subcommittee meeting in the second half of August.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Will folks be around next week on next month so that we have enough people in attendance?
Tuesday the 6th?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
You know what I realized partway through this? Lisa's not here. Lisa Evans.
Oh.
Yeah. She wasn't here last time either, was she?
She had I forget what the conflict was last time, but she's not here. And we knew Jennifer Hurley Wales wasn't going to be able to be here for this one. So I will we will plunge ahead for July 6th. And Marcia, I'm assuming we're still meeting on Zoom.
Oh, that is a good question. If the state of emergency is lifted on June 15th, which means we're no longer permitted to have open meetings or public meetings via Zoom. So we meet in person.
Yeah.
That would be problematic then.
But the governor has filed legislation, if passed, would allow boards and committees in municipalities and towns and cities to continue to meet remotely. So we're all holding our breath, waiting to see. And so I don't have an answer for you right now. At this point in time, it would, if it's July 6th, it would have to be in person unless that legislation passes.
Okay. Well, I'll still put in with Jeremy to try and get a link just to make sure that I can get one
Yes.
from him.
I would go ahead with that.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else? Irene, I hope that we have fully impressed you. There will be drinks left at your back step. That's typically what we do. And Marcia has one more thing.
I just have one more thing. Tomorrow night, the West Concord Advisory Committee is going to hear from the Concord Public Works Engineering Division on the improvements to Commonwealth Ave that will go from Church Street to only as far as that second entrance for Beharrell Street. So those plans are available on the West Concord Advisory Committee's webpage. You can take a look at that. And if you are available to attend tomorrow night, the meeting starts at 7 p.m. You might hear a repeat of the Concord Park Assisted Living, but the Public Works will be presenting the Commonwealth Ave improvements immediately following. So that would give you an opportunity to see what's being proposed.
Thanks for mentioning that, Marcia. I was going to bring it up to you before the meeting closed, but that was a great plug and you shared more than I knew. So thank you.
Great. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do we do that here?
Sure, motion to adjourn.
Second. Someone else has the second.
I second.
A roll call vote to accept or to vote aye or nay.
Yay.
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 Okay.
Have a great month, everybody. Thank
Thanks.
you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.